Understanding ought to in English. Your gateway to polite suggestions. Hello, learners. Today, we are going to delve into a very interesting aspect of English language learning. The semi-modal verb, ought to. This underused gem can add polish to your English speaking and writing, and we're here to unlock its secrets for you. It's all about knowing when and how to use it. Remember, understanding and mastering ought to can give you an edge in expressing polite suggestions, moral obligations, and expectations. Let's start with the basics. Ought to is a semi-modal verb. It functions much like a modal verb, but its usage is somewhat more nuanced. In most cases, ought to is used to denote a sense of obligation, advisability, or expectation. For example, you ought to eat more vegetables. Advisability, they ought to apologize. Obligation, he ought to arrive soon. Expectation. Many of you might ask, isn't should used for these situations too? Absolutely, you're right. Ought to and should can often be used interchangeably. But there's a slight difference in tone. Ought to is often considered more polite, formal, or strong than should. For example, you ought to finish your homework. Sounds more formal or stronger than you should finish your homework. We have the negative form, ought not to, or more commonly its contraction, oughtn't to. Just like ought to, it expresses the same ideas but in a negative context. For example, you oughtn't to smoke, it's bad for your health. Advisability, they oughtn't to have behaved rudely. Obligation. Using ought to in questions can sound a bit formal or old-fashioned, but it's not wrong. It's often used in rhetorical questions where the speaker believes they know the answer. For example, oughtn't we to leave early to avoid the traffic? The speaker believes yes, they should leave early. And that's a wrap on our exploration of ought to. We've seen how this versatile semi-modal verb can help us express obligation, advisability, or expectation. Remember, using ought to can add a sense of formality or strength to your suggestions. We hope you found this session useful. Keep practicing, and soon, ought to will become a natural part of your English vocabulary. Until our next session, keep learning, and stay curious.